The standings, the rider, the reigning European champion, highlighted there as his main rival, Frenchman Alexandre Ferrer. It's my second full year in World Pro. It's true that I work very hard with my trainer to hit certain goals, notably 6th or 7th place this year. It's far from easy because there are a lot of riders ahead, very experienced riders. For now, I'm joint 8th with Paul Therese. My objective this year was getting into the top 6, but that's going to be difficult now. We're at the halfway point of the championship. My greatest rival is Jorge Casales. He was junior champion last year. He got off to a good start this season and is riding well this year.
Sur une bonne lancée, il roule très fort cette année.
Here is the Spaniard, the youngster who's made the greatest impact this year. He lies in 7th. In World Cup, it's a more settled series, an easier trial in which you notch a lot fewer points. The psychological aspect impacts you more than the level of riding. In the pro class, psychology still plays a part, but the level of riding is so important. The sections are really tough, and the level of those top 4 riders is particularly high. The truth is that this year we're riding mainly to learn from riding in the World Championship itself. So the aim is to finish every event, not get injured, finish as high as I can, and always give 100%. My main rival is Paul Therese. In every event we're really close. We always seem to be fighting in the Spanish Championship, and in the World Championship we're very close. We have a bit of a grudge between us, I suppose, but it's all very healthy. Therese might be below Casales for now, but this rivalry will clearly continue through the season. I've had some bike problems in some of the events, but the truth is I feel great in a new category. I think bit by bit I'm learning, taking in experience, and I think sooner or later we'll catch the 4 or 5 riders who seem impossible to beat. I hope sometime the riders on the rise now will be the riders at the front. Both the young brigade and their more experienced rivals heading towards the title itself were well aware of the importance of the Belgian Grand Prix. With 3 back-to-back weekends of trial action, the World Championship itself could be decided in the coming weeks, although with just 4 points separating the top 2, it looks likely to go down to the wire. Meticulous preparation going into a vital event, which marked the 7th of 12 scoring days in 2014. One of the most impressive riders in recent rounds has been Matteo Gratarola. Well, in Belgium, the ground is much more slippery and more difficult than in Italy. The course here is pretty risky, so it is possible to get back points. We're hoping for a good race today, and we'll see how it goes. We want to get off to a good start and go from there. Gratarola has done well since returning to the series, but looks unlikely to be able to climb any higher than 7th in the final reckoning. Within the top 6, James Davil trails the pace and will look to Belgium to bounce back.
Yeah, we looked at the sections yesterday, and they don't look. Nothing looks too big, but it's very, very slippery. So even when it's like this, the conditions are wet and slippery. The smallest rocks can be really difficult. So yeah, I think it will be a hard day physically because there will be some fighting in the section.
James Davil anticipating a physical trial then, and that may not go the way of some of the veterans. One of the toughest battles in the championship for now is between Albert Cabestan and Takehisa Fujinami, and the Japanese rider has been losing form in recent rounds.
Quite happy now because first very near to I position make to catch first place, so middle of the season and near to first place, and I'm good position for me.
With Bo and Raga out in front, Cabestan and Fujinami in their own battle for third, and the pack simply doing their best to keep the pace. The stage was set for the Belgian Grand Prix. A new venue for 2014. The last Grand Prix in the country was staged at the legendary Spa-Francorchamps back in 2006, when Adam Raga was victorious for a second year in succession. Takahisa Fujinami has been on the podium more than any other rider in Belgium, while Albert Cabestan has also stepped onto the blocks. Could one of the younger generation steal a top 3 space this time? The Top Guns setting off as ever in reverse order. Albert Cabestan sitting 26 behind the front 2, getting underway the first of the main contenders. Adam Raga next to go, with just a point to find on Tony Bo. And the 5-time Spanish champion and multi-time world champion Bo receiving the final call.
C'est lui qui quitte maintenant le podium et qu'on retrouve tout à l'heure à l'issue de la première boucle.
Tony Bo restored his championship lead to the largest it's been since day 2 of the title race, with a second consecutive victory at the mid-season phase. The Spaniard took a 3rd win of the season to level with main rival Adam Raga's own victory rate in 2014, but crucially holds a 4-point advantage in the overall classifications thanks to a greater consistency. In Belgium, he was one of the less consistent Top Guns, a 12-mark difference between his best and worst laps. His poorest was his opening effort, as he fouled sections 5, 6 and 12 for a 25-mark return. That left him in 2nd and a mark above 3rd in the early stages. But he rallied well with an impressive series of cleared zones on the 2nd lap, battling through previously unconquered sections to take back the lead. Only failures in the challenging sections 11 and 12 stopped Bo from taking a near-immaculate lap. But his 13 marks on the tour was nonetheless the best of any rider all day. That left him 8 marks clear, but he wiped out 6 of that lead on the first 5 sections of the final lap to guarantee a grandstand finish. He made few further errors though, with only 2 more failed sections through the event to take the win. 19 cleared sections overall was 1 more than his nearest contender, and that showed just how close it got. But this was an important result for Bo, recently beaten into 3rd in a round of the Spanish National Championship, but a rider who bounced back in Belgium, a country where he'd never previously been a winner. With a 60th career trial win and a 93rd career podium, Tony Bo continues to push towards the record books. But the record he clearly wants most of all is the 2014 world title. And on the evidence of this showing in the mud, he won't be far away from achieving it. Just 1 failed section and 6 marks at the end of 12 laps of action. This was a trial that Adam Raga will feel only just escaped him. Tony Bo's main championship rival arrived in Belgium the sport's 4-man, with 3 victories in the last 4 events and even a recent win in a round of the Spanish Trial Championship under his belt. But Raga failed to take back the lead of the title race, despite initially leading the event. Rival Bo had dropped important marks midway around the opening lap to present Raga with a golden opportunity. But as he slipped up on sections 4 and 6 of lap 2, Bo was building an advantage. The gas-gassed rider pegged Bo for the rest of the lap, but 11 lost marks on the tour would prove crucial in the final reckoning. Because although Raga ran clear in the opening 5 sections of the last lap, while Bo dropped 6 marks, the 2-mark gap between the fellow countrymen was as narrow as the reigning champion's buffer got. Raga failed section 6 on every lap and also struggled on section 9 when he needed to make back ground. And despite coming to within 1 section of beating Bo again, he'll have to recover 4 championship points in the remaining events to win the 2014 title. It was nonetheless an impressive 127th career podium for Raga, who continued his proud history in the Belgian Grand Prix. The day's scoring meant Raga will go into another challenging event in Great Britain next time out, just 4 points in arrears, with 3 second places and 3 thirds in 2014. The 4-point gap between the two lead riders in the championship goes back to day one in Australia, the only time this year that a rider other than Ragga or Bo has occupied top spot. And the pair in dominant form once again in Belgium. Albert Cabestan was rewarded with a podium for making it through more sections than any other rider on the day. The veteran Spaniard has been the most consistent of any of the top riders in 2014 and took a valuable fourth consecutive third-place finish in Belgium. This, though, was the closest he's come this year to adding to his 8 career victories. Had it not been for a disappointing opening lap, the 34-year-old could have been competitive with the eventual winner. As it was, he sat a mark behind Tony Bo after the opening lap, dropping marks in 6 consecutive sections around the trial. His lap 2 performance was somewhat stronger, as again he failed 2 sections, but limited drop marks elsewhere on the course. That was enough to put him just a mark behind Adam Ragga, and in prime position to act as a spoiler to the title duel. But there's a reason that Ragga and Bo have locked out the 2 top positions in every event since day one of the championship, and they maintained their cool to hold on. Cabestan did actually take second place around the final lap, battling through sections 6 and 9 that had proved such a problem for Adam Ragga all day. But when he needed to press home that advantage, he failed the final 2 sections of the event and was left in third. It was a shame, since the Veterans Challenge had been built up entirely through consistency. He cleared 4 fewer sections than Ragga, but crucially failed only 7 zones all day and limited drop marks in others. And that was enough for him to take only a second podium in Belgium and a 70th in his proud career record. Cabestan has been unable to beat either Ragga or Bo in any event this year, but the gap on the zones does seem to be narrowing between the trio, even if the championship difference continues to extend. The Catalan rider now sits 32 points behind championship leader Tony Bo. Takahisa Fujinami last won the Belgian Grand Prix back in 2001, but he couldn't find that type of form in the 2014 edition and had to settle for 4th. It was a solid result for the Japanese rider after underperforming in both Corsica and Alagna last time out, but it wasn't the top 3 finish he would have been hoping for. In fact, after the first lap, Fujinami was as far down the standings as 8th, a 36-mark score comprising 5 failed sections. But he quickly regained his composure and had moved up into the top 5 by the end of the second tour. Around the first half of the lap, the 34-year-old had looked comfortable, dropping only 2 marks in the first 5 sections. But it was his performance around the second half of the lap that stopped him from making further ground. He dropped 6 marks in sections 8 and 9 and failed sections 11 and 12. In fact, those 2 hazards that had proved the bane of most of the top riders also caught out Fujinami, who conceded 24 marks there through the day. Only on the final lap did he take 4th position, other competitors falling by the wayside as the Japanese rider hit his stride. In the final reckoning, though, with only 12 cleared sections compared to teammate Bo's 19, he could never have anticipated lifting the trophy in Belgium. Nor could he add to his 4 Belgian Grand Prix podiums, as he finished 18 marks back from the front-running trio. Hard work for all of the riders, whose arms were under maximum stress in the wet conditions. Fujinami was quickly back on board, though, for his best result of the European season so far. His only frustration will be that Albert Cabestan continues to pull away in 3rd in the championship. When Gironi Fajardo dropped 30 out of a possible 40 in the final 8 sections of the opening lap, his chances of netting a first Belgian Grand Prix podium looked decidedly slim. And his second lap was even poorer, the Spaniard becoming the only top 10 rider to drop 3 marks on section 1 before conceding further ground on sections 3 and 4. As on his first lap, he failed section 12, but most of his main rivals had also struggled through that hazard. Of greater concern was his systematic failure on sections 8 and 9 that restricted his performance. With a second lap return of 33, Fajardo could occupy only 8th position with 12 sections left to make up ground. But as the final tour went on, it became increasingly apparent that he was involved in a scrap for 4th place. Takehisa Fujinami gave up the position to Fajardo by failing section 7, but made back ground with his superior performances midway around the lap. That was enough for him to seal 4th, especially when a time penalty had been factored in for Fajardo. The Beta rider, though, secured his top 5 space with only 12 failed sections, superior by just 1 to his teammate behind him. The 29-year-old's result in Belgium meant he slipped another 2 points behind the championship podium, but a 6th double-figure score of the year leaves him still within striking distance of Kazakhstan, 13 points ahead. Fajardo's main worry now in the championship will be his continued efforts in keeping James Davil behind him. James Davil has had plenty to celebrate in recent weeks. He took the second round of the British Trials Championship in his native Yorkshire and then celebrated the birth of his new son. But the Belgian Grand Prix wasn't one to remember, and the British rider will feel frustrated to continue his fluctuation between 5th and 6th positions without breaking back onto the podium. His chances of doing that in Comblain were already poor when he failed sections 4, 5 and 6 consecutively on the opening lap, finishing the tour with a 34-mark tally.
The conditions are very slippery. James has had some good rides, so hopefully we can keep a good score together.
Davil fought back to a 21-mark second lap, an exceptionally competitive return and the second best of the World Pro riders. But the 5th place that he held provisionally at that stage quickly came under threat. Davil making a mistake on section 6 to give away ground. But for failure on section 10, a hazard through which he had already passed clear on 2 occasions and which none of the other top 10 riders failed, he would have maintained a top 5 finish. But he grew seemingly inconsistent towards the end of the trial, and his failure to clear any of sections 4 to 12 on the final lap ultimately proved costly. 13 clear sections overall may have been a match for Gironi Fajardo's tally, but Davil's section 10 failure left him on one more fiasco than the Spaniard.